Howdy folks, welcome back. Today we're just going to go over a quick caliber conversion change on the Dillon 550C here. And that's assuming you've already got your other tool heads set up, and we're going to not change primer sizes either. So stick with me and we'll switch from 300 Blackout over to 9mm real quick. So you don't need many tools, you just need these three little Allen keys here. We've got a 1/4 inch, 5/32, and a 1/8. You're going to need your other caliber conversion kit with your pins and your plate, as well as the funnel that you're going to have installed in your powder die. And then of course you'll need your other tool head set up with your dies in it. So let's move over here to the press and I'll show you how we get started. So the first step here, regardless of whether or not you are going to be changing out your powder measure, is we need to remove this rod here between our shell plate and ram and the actual powder measure. So just raise up here, pull this little plastic piece out of the bottom, and then this will freely lift up and out to the side. We can set him down until we're done. So this is where we're going to use our 5/32 Allen key to loosen up these two bolts here and here. You don't need to take these all the way out, but once we're loose enough, we can come straight up. And now our powder measure is free from our tool head. We'll drop that wrench there, but we're going to set the powder measure gently on the desk. Finally, before removing our tool head, we have these two pins on the side that come straight up. We can set these aside, and now we can pull this straight out to the side, and our tool head is free. Be careful not to turn your tool head over. That is, unless you need to take your funnel out if you're changing your powder die or something. Otherwise, leave your dies set up, and we're going to set this over here on our spare tool head holder. So here's our tool head holders here. You can see this one was 3D printed. It works just as well as this old school 90s style with this little insert here. I've seen people make these with an appropriate size dowel rod and just a 2x4 base or whatever, and you can set 3 or 5 of them up or however many you want to and just mount that somewhere for super cheap. But anyways, now we're going to switch over to 9mm after we take out our pins and shell plate. Next we have to remove our shell plate and pins. We can go ahead and pull these pins out just so we don't leave them in the way or lose them. Come up here to get this third one out. So finally, to get our shell plate off here, we're just going to raise up a little bit to access this set screw on the side of the ram. This is where our 1/8 inch wrench comes in. We're just going to break that loose. And then if we come up here, we can now access this set screw down the center that holds in our shell plate. And also make sure not to pull this set screw out too far to where you can't lower your ram again. So there's a nice medium between locked and interfering right here. Now we can finally use this 1/4 inch Allen key here. And we'll just raise this up. Once that is loose, we can lift up here. And you're going to want to leave these parts attached here, and we're just coming for our shell plate. This slides right off and it'll go into our storage container with our pins. Now we need to hit it with some duster and just clean this up, but make sure we're not going to lose this little bearing here, so just hold on to that. Give it a couple sprays. Now that we've cleaned that up, we can grab our new shell plate. So here we need the number 5 shell plate for 9mm, and we actually could have kept our number 3 pins installed, but we're going for a complete changeover here, so our number 5 plate we'll start with. We leave this bearing here and lay this on top, and then that bearing will actually sit into one of these 4 holes on our shell plate. And once we get it set into here, we need to rotate so these pins on the bottom align up with those holes that our bearing lines up with. And that's where we start to screw in a little bit here. We're going to come all the way down until we bottom out there. And I'm going to be pressing the shell plate down into the ram to make sure that's level. And you're going to see, of course, that this is totally locked up. So from here, I just barely pull out this 1/4 inch Now I can test for movement and go slightly tighter or looser as we need, but you're going to want it as tight as possible to remove as much play from the shell plate as you can. I think we're good here. And we come back up and hit the set screw on the side. Now from here we'll install our 3 pins. I believe they're called locator pins. One at your crimp station, one at your seating station, and one at your powder station. And this way you can quickly remove these to check any of your settings, or if you need to pull anything, you can do that with ease. So now we have our shell plate installed, locked down on the side there. This has nice fluid motion. Make sure this little ejector part here that kicks your shell out, make sure that is down and flush and not interfering up here. So we have nice smooth indexing. Next we need to come back up top to install our new tool head. And here for 9mm we start out with the Lee carbide sizing die. Then we have our powder through and expanding die here from Dillon. Over here is an RCBS seater where I can change from a round nose to a flat nose kind of thing. And then finally the Lee factory crimp die with the carbide ring insert. And you'll see this will only fit in one direction. It's kind of a horseshoe shape around one side and more square on the other. It slides straight in here. And then we have to make sure to install these 2 set pins here before we install our powder measure up top. Now our tool head is locked in. And back with the new powder measure. This will come straight over the top. And now we can set these 2 screws here. We're not going to totally tighten them down, however, not until we get this lined up properly with our ram here. So we're done with the 1/8. We are done with the 1/4. The last one we need is the 5/32. Tighten these down. And it's nice to have this ball end here because this angle is kind of awkward to get to this one underneath your arm here. So you can see I've got those in, but we're not snug yet. We can still rotate, which we're going to need to do to line it up. And if we actually cycle a case through, make sure we've been sized and decapped. And I'm just using an empty case here, but we'll raise it up and you'll see I have the same setting installed. And we can see if this is properly aligned. Put this in here. And as we come down, you'll see that it'll kind of pull this in the direction it wants to go. And then we can check that it's nice and pretty much straight, because we can be off to here and it'll still do the same function, but it's, you know, of course, better to be straight and nice and aligned. Very nice. And now we can lock these in here with our case lowered out of there. Make sure that's nice and snug. This isn't moving anywhere. Run this through. Very nice. And we can check our flare from our last setup. Make sure that's still perfectly set up there to accept our new projectile. That's good to go. Replace our locator pin. And we're now set up and ready to run 9mm. So there you have it. That's how we change out our Dillon 550 caliber conversion kit both quickly and efficiently if you have your tool head set up. Of course, we're not changing primers, but that involves a few other steps. However, not too bad. Also another however, I'm never going to change from small primers here because I load all my large primer things over on the rock chucker. So anyways, that's it for caliber conversions on the Dillon 550. Thanks for hanging out, folks, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.